In the final week of his life, Moe Howard, legendary leader of the Three Stooges, finally revealed the secret that haunted him for decades. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a staged farewell. It was raw, unexpected, and deeply personal. And it was about Curly. For years, fans adored Curly Howard, the lovable goofball with the high-pitched voice, the silly dances, and the unforgettable "Nuke, Nuke, Nuke." He was the spark that ignited every scene, the wild card that stole every laugh. He wasn't just a performer, he was a phenomenon. But in 1946, at the absolute peak of his career, Curly vanished. No explanation, no warning, just gone. The fans were confused. The media speculated. Rumors swirled like wildfire. Was it illness, burnout, drugs, family scandal? Everyone had theories, no one had answers. And then, decades later, Moe spoke. What he said didn't just clarify what happened, it shattered the myth. It painted a new picture of Curly. Not just the clown we loved, but the man we never really knew. A man who suffered in silence, a man whose body was failing while the world demanded more laughs. This wasn't a farewell, this was a confession. And it would change how the world remembered the most beloved stooge forever. Because behind every slapstick skit and pratfall was a man fighting a battle no one saw. While the world laughed, Curly was fading. And Moe? Moe was watching it all happen in silence. Behind the stage curtains, off camera, in quiet hospital rooms and tense dressing areas, he saw the truth. And he kept it hidden. Why didn't he say anything sooner? What did he witness behind closed doors? And what really happened to the man who made millions laugh but couldn't save himself? This is the real story of Curly Howard. A story of talent, tragedy, brotherhood, and guilt. A story hidden behind years of laughter. And it begins with one final conversation when the cameras were off, the audience gone, and the mask finally dropped. It's a story that will make you rethink every laugh, every sketch, and every memory. Because once you hear what Moe said, you'll never look at Curly or the Three Stooges the same way again. And maybe that's why Moe finally decided to speak. Not for fame, not for closure, but for truth. To show the world that behind every icon is a human being. Flawed, fragile, and forgotten. Moe wanted us to see Curly not just as the jester who made us laugh, but as the brother he couldn't save. And in doing so, he gave us a final, sobering gift. The truth. The kind of truth that echoes long after the laughter fades. Curly Howard wasn't supposed to be a star. Born Jerome Lester Horwitz, he was the youngest of the Howard brothers, soft-spoken, shy, and far removed from the aggressive energy that defined early vaudeville comedy. When Shemp Howard, the original third stooge, left the act in 1932, it was Moe who suggested Curly as a replacement. But nobody saw what was coming. Curly didn't look the part. He was overweight, had a full head of hair, and wore a thick mustache, more like an accountant than a comedian. But he wanted the role so badly that he shaved it all off. Completely bald, clean-shaven, and suddenly ridiculous to look at, he walked into the audition and began improvising wildly. In that moment, something clicked. The room erupted in laughter. It was undeniable, the kid had it. He was instantly magnetic on stage. Directors quickly learned that Curly didn't need scripts. He didn't rehearse routines, he invented them. The barking, the spinning, the gibberish, those weren't written, they just happened. He was pure chaos in motion, and audiences adored it. In just months, Curly became the heart of the Three Stooges. He didn't just fill Shemp's shoes, he made the role unforgettable. But off stage, it was a different story. Curly was quiet, even awkward. He hated interviews, avoided crowds, and often retreated to his dressing room after performances. Fame found him, but it never fit him. He was a generous colleague, always giving gifts to cast and crew, but rarely let anyone close. He bounced from one short-lived marriage to another, struggling to maintain stable relationships. Behind the wild performances was a man who didn't know how to deal with attention or admiration. Moe watched it all unfold. As the leader of the E act and as Curly's brother, he saw the pressure building. Curly would often downplay his insecurities with jokes or a smile. But Moe noticed the signs. Curly wasn't built for the spotlight. Every day on set was a strain, and though he never complained, his energy was starting to fray. Physically, the slapstick routines were brutal. Curly fell, spun, got slapped, poked, and pounded for laughs, over and over again. There were no stunt doubles. It was all real and it took a toll. He began gaining weight rapidly. His energy dipped. He started forgetting lines. But instead of asking for help, Curly tried harder. He laughed louder, spun faster, barked crazier. All to cover up the slow unraveling inside. By 1941, things were visibly off. Curly, once a fountain of energy, started dragging between takes. Sometimes he'd sit on set with a blank stare, unaware that it was his cue. Moe noticed everything. He tried to protect his brother, offering to take on more physical bits, suggesting longer breaks, but the show couldn't stop. Contracts were signed. Studios were demanding more, and the public wanted laughs. Still, Curly pushed through. Every scene was a battle against himself, and every performance a mask he put on so no one could see what was underneath. He was breaking, but the world only saw the clown. And Moe? He carried the growing weight of knowing that each laugh they earned came with a cost his brother might not be able to keep paying. By the early 1940s, the Three Stooges had become a comedy juggernaut. Their shorts were in theaters everywhere, and Curly Howard was beloved by millions. But behind the scenes, a slow and heartbreaking transformation was unfolding, one that no amount of laughter could hide forever. Curly was only in his late 30s, but he moved like a man twice his age. The physical comedy that had once come so naturally to him was now a source of visible pain. His weight had ballooned, he developed high blood pressure, and most alarmingly, his once quick reflexes were dulled. Moe noticed it first, how Curly would take longer to react, forget simple cues, or struggle through lines he once breezed through without rehearsal. At first, people chalked it up to exhaustion. The Stooges filmed non-stop, churning out short after short with demanding physical routines and tight schedules. It was easy to believe that Curly just needed rest, but Moe knew better. There were moments, quiet, terrifying moments, when Curly would walk off set, not angry, but disoriented. He'd look around like he didn't know where he was, or worse, who he was. These weren't flukes, they were warnings. His speech started to slur, his balance faltered. Directors had to adjust scenes, staging them carefully so Curly wouldn't have to move too much. His once electric energy was becoming unpredictable, sometimes fading entirely mid-shoot. Between takes, Curly would sit silently, sweating, pale, staring into space. Moe tried to shield him. He took on more lines, more stunts. He tried to pace the work better, but the studio had other plans. Columbia Pictures didn't just own the Three Stooges, they controlled them. The pressure to produce was relentless. The world was at war and people needed to laugh. Curly was still a star, still drawing crowds, so the show had to go on even if it was killing him. Inside, Moe was torn apart. He wasn't just watching his brother decline, he was helping it happen. Every scene shot was a little more of Curly, slipping away. And yet every time the cameras rolled, Curly found a way to perform. To be funny, to be the Curly everyone adored, but it came at a cost, a brutal, invisible one. There were no diagnoses back then, no understanding of what small strokes looked like. But now we know what Moe saw. Curly's hands trembling without cause, his mouth tightening oddly mid-sentence, the growing confusion. They were signs of something far worse than fatigue. They were signs of neurological breakdown. But there was no break, no pause. No mercy. By 1944, Curly was deteriorating faster. He was often placed at the end of scenes or given fewer lines. The spark in his eyes was gone. The spontaneity, once his trademark, was missing. And the worst part? The audience didn't notice. The edits were clever. The makeup was good. The laughs continued. But for Moe, it was becoming unbearable. Every moment he saw his brother on screen, he saw what the world didn't. A man being eaten alive by an illness he didn't understand and no one wanted to talk about. He began to retreat further into himself. Once known for his generosity and occasional backstage jokes, Curly became quieter, more distant. Crew members would later recall how he sometimes seemed lost, even when surrounded by familiar faces. The man who could steal a scene with a single look was now struggling just to remember where he was between takes. Moe did what he could. He spoke to producers. He tried to push for rest days, more support, anything to ease the pressure. But in a business built on laughs, there was no room for weakness. There was only the next deadline. And Curly, loyal to his fans and his family, refused to quit. That stubborn commitment, admirable and heartbreaking, kept Curly going when he should have stopped. Moe knew they were racing against something they couldn't see. Something closing in faster than anyone wanted to admit. And every day he feared what they all refused to say aloud, that one day Curly wouldn't be able to keep going. The cracks were no longer subtle. They were everywhere. And still, the show kept rolling, until the day it didn't. May 6, 1946. The day everything changed. They were filming Half-Wit's Holiday, a typical Three Stooges short filled with gags, pratfalls, and the kind of chaos that had made them famous. Curly. Howard had been struggling for months, his performances growing weaker, his speech more slurred, his energy all but gone. And then, in a moment that would haunt Moe Howard forever, it all came crashing down. Curly collapsed on set. It was a massive stroke, one so severe that it left him partially paralyzed and unable to speak clearly. Moe rushed to his side. Crew. Members stood frozen. The laughter stopped. For Moe, it was as if a curtain had fallen, not just on the scene, but on his brother's life. The Curly everyone knew, the whirlwind of energy and laughs, was gone in an instant. The man who built his career on physical comedy could no longer walk unassisted. The man who improvised his way into America's heart could barely string a sentence together. And there was no question his time with the Three Stooges was over. Curly was only 42 years old. Behind closed doors, Moe was devastated. He had watched his brother push himself to the edge for years, ignoring every sign that something was wrong. They all had. The studio, the fans, even Curly himself. They didn't stop. They didn't pause. They filmed. Because that's what the machine demanded, and now it had chewed up and spat out the heart of their act. The studio, needing to keep the trio going, turned to Shemp Howard, Curly's older brother who had originally left the act in 1932. Shemp returned reluctantly to fill the void. But it wasn't the same. Audiences could tell. The spark, the unpredictable magic that Curly brought to every scene was missing. The chemistry had shifted. The trio became functional, but never the same. Meanwhile, Curly's health continued to decline. He struggled with emotional instability, frequent hospitalizations, and a sense of confusion that never lifted. At times, he didn't recognize those closest to him. He lived in and out of care facilities, slipping further away from the man he once was. For Moe, the guilt was unbearable. As both brother and colleague, he had watched it all happen, helpless to stop it. He carried on with the act, kept smiling for the cameras, but every performance was shadowed by sorrow. Every laugh reminded him of what was missing, of who was missing. Curly's story had taken a turn no one expected. The world thought he had simply retired, that he had walked away from fame on his own terms, but the truth was darker. He didn't leave. He was forced out by a body that had given everything and could give no more. And Moe knew it. He lived with that truth every single day. And in the quiet moments when the stage lights were off and the applause faded, he was left with the silence, the kind that followed a brother's fall, a legend's collapse, a life forever changed by a moment they never saw coming. There were brief flickers of the old Curly in those early months after the stroke. Moe would visit him, and sometimes for just a few seconds Curly would light up. He'd squeeze Moe's hand, try to smile, maybe even attempt a sound that resembled his old antics. But those moments were fleeting. They passed like shadows, gone before they could be fully grasped. The public didn't see any of this. They only knew that Curly was no longer in the shorts. They assumed he was resting, taking a break, maybe planning a comeback. But behind the curtain, the truth was sinking in. Curly wasn't coming back. Not to the set, not to the stage, and not to the world that had adored him. The silence that followed his absence was deafening. Fans wrote letters, asked questions, begged for updates. But the studio said little. And Moe said even less. He put on the face of the showman, answered interviews with polite deflections, and went back to work. But inside he was breaking, because he hadn't just lost a co-star, he had lost his little brother. And the hardest part? He had watched it happen in slow motion, frame by frame, joke by joke, until the punchline was no longer funny. After Curly Howard's devastating stroke in 1946, he disappeared from the spotlight. Fans thought he was resting, some believed he might return, but the truth was far more tragic. Curly wasn't on a break. He was unraveling, slowly and painfully, far from the public eye. He was moved between hospitals and long-term care facilities, often unable to walk without assistance. His speech was slurred, his once quick wit replaced by confusion. At times, he didn't recognize familiar faces. Moe visited regularly, always trying to keep his brother's spirits up. But the visits were bittersweet. The man in the hospital bed was not the Curly the world remembered. Emotionally, Curly spiraled. He battled deep depression and bursts of paranoia. His weight ballooned, his marriages fell apart. He became harder to care for, less cooperative, more erratic. The spark that made him so magnetic on screen had faded into a distant flicker. Moe once said that each time he visited, it felt like looking into the eyes of a stranger who vaguely resembled his brother. The studio offered no support. The show had moved on. Shemp had replaced Curly in the trio, and new shorts were being produced. Publicly, Moe kept up appearances, pretending that Curly was simply resting. Privately, he was mourning a loss the world didn't know had already happened. In 1949, Curly made a brief cameo in Malice in the Palace. For a moment, fans saw him again, but even that small appearance revealed the truth. He was no longer the same. The bounce was gone. The sparkle dimmed. The performance, though short, was heavy with unspoken sadness. And still, Curly smiled. Somewhere inside, the performer remained. A man who once lived for laughter. But now, he was lost in a body that could no longer perform, and a mind that slipped further away with each passing day. By the early 1950s, he had suffered multiple additional strokes. He lost most of his ability to speak. He became increasingly fragile, physically and emotionally. The end was near. But Moe never gave up on him. Through it all, he remained a brother first, not just a performer alongside a legend, but a man, standing by family until the very end. In his final days, Curly found brief moments of joy in Moe's visits. Sometimes he would smile or squeeze his brother's hand, even if he couldn't say a word. It was as if, deep down, he still remembered who he was and who he had once been. For Moe, those moments were everything. They were proof that beneath the decline, Curly was still in there, however fleetingly, and that memory would stay with Moe for the rest of his life. Moe Howard carried a secret for decades, a weight he kept hidden behind every performance, every interview, every smile. It wasn't until the final week of his life that he finally let it out, and when he did, it changed everything. In his last interview, Moe didn't just share memories. He told the truth, raw, unfiltered, emotional. He admitted what so many had suspected and what others never even imagined, that Curly's fall wasn't sudden. It was a slow, painful collapse they all saw coming and did nothing to stop. "I should have said something sooner," Moe confessed. For years, he had protected the brand. He had told fans Curly was fine, that he was resting, that maybe he'd come back. But the truth was far darker. Moe revealed that Curly had been showing signs of neurological breakdown long before the stroke. Confusion, trembling, slurred speech. But Columbia Pictures wouldn't slow down. The shorts were profitable. The laughs kept rolling, and the show had to go on. Curly, despite everything, kept performing. He threw pies, fell downstairs, and delivered punchlines, while having minor strokes and emotional breakdowns backstage, and no one stopped him. Not the studio, not the fans, not even Moe. That guilt stayed with him. "We were making people laugh," Moe said, "while my brother was dying in front of me." It was a confession of love, sorrow, and regret. Moe had spent his whole life keeping Curly's image alive, but at the end, he realized the truth needed to be known. Not to tarnish Curly's memory, but to honor it, to show that behind the laugh was a man in pain, a brother who gave everything and got nothing back. He didn't want Curly to be remembered just as the funny one. He wanted people to know the human being, the one who suffered, the one who was failed, the one who, despite it all, kept smiling. For Moe, telling the truth was never about blame, it was about legacy. He had watched the world continue to celebrate the act while forgetting the man who sacrificed everything to keep it alive. In those final days, he wanted to be sure that Curly wouldn't just fade into reruns and punchlines, that someone would remember the price he paid. "I think about him every day," Moe added quietly, eyes filled with the weight of decades. "Not the performer, my brother, the one who always gave more than he had." It wasn't just a final interview. It was a reckoning, a moment where laughter gave way to grief and applause was replaced by silence. For the first time, fans saw not just Moe the performer, but Moe the brother, broken, honest, and desperate to make things right. And maybe, just maybe, he did. Curly Howard wasn't just the funny one. He was a brother, a performer, a fragile soul wrapped in laughter. And thanks to Moe's final confession, we finally see the full picture. Not just the man on screen, but the human behind the act. His story is no longer just about pratfalls and punchlines. It's about sacrifice, about the cost of making people laugh while slowly breaking inside. And it's about a brother who carried that truth for decades, only to reveal it when the cameras were nearly done rolling on his own life. The legacy of the Three Stooges will always be laughter. But now, it also holds a warning, a reminder that even the brightest stars can burn out silently if no one is watching close enough. Moe's final words weren't just a tribute, they were a reckoning. A request that we look deeper, feel more, and never forget that even the biggest laughs can come from the deepest pain. So the next time you see Curly spin, bark, or fall, remember, this, behind every gag, was a man who gave everything. And a brother who, in the end, told the truth. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the real lives behind the legends.